Hi, welcome to the Creative Treehouse. My name is Robin Broom and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the United States. Thanks for joining me in the Treehouse today. Today's project is this card, but specifically I'm going to just kind of hone in on how to use the Stampin' Blends on a darker card stock color like Crumb Cake, and this is Crumb Cake that I chose to use for the flowers. Now ordinarily if you want to use a darker cardstock instead of your basic white or your very vanilla, the Stampin' Blends just kind of absorb into the cardstock and your color just disappears and it doesn't look very good. I'll show you, let me show you an example. If you can hopefully you can see the difference between these two. This one I worked with and figured out a way to do it, and this one is just plain and it's just soaked in. The Stampin' Blends have soaked into that Crumb Cake, and so I think you can kind of see the difference. This one's just kind of bland and dull, and there wasn't any way to make it kind of pop, and I figured out a way to make it pop, and I want to share that with you today. So let me go over the colors and dimensions with you. All right, we have our card base. I'll move the card itself out of the way. We've got our card base, which is the in color, the evening evergreen color, and it is cut at the 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. So there is our card base. Now our top piece is the soft succulent, another one of the in colors, beautiful colors. I love these, and this one is cut at 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and then it was run through by the, I think it's the Time Worn embossing folder, and that's just got a really neat look to it, and that's one of the newer folders. And that's what we've run it through that folder. Now, as far as stamp sets are concerned, we're going to be using the Nature's Harvest, and we will be using these, which I assume they're like cone flowers, and we'll also be using this particular stamp, and we're going to be using this one as well for the sentiment, but we're not going to be using the entire piece of that. All right, so those are some of the dimensions. Let me go. Also, we have this strip, which is the soft suede. And then what I did was I used that particular stamp, the one I was referring to right here, the kind of blob like that, and I used it on the soft suede. And I think I used soft suede, either that or Crumb Cake, and I just did it on, and I also stamped off with it so it was lighter till I made this pattern that almost looks I can't remember what it looks like, but anyway, so there it is plain, and then here it is with that neat texture to it. So it's almost like it's not really like cork. I don't know. You can put in the comments what it's like. It's like something. It really is. So, and I just like that, just that little hint of extra that it has on it. And that particular strip, like I said, I used soft suede as the cardstock color, and it was a strip that was 3/4 of an inch wide, and then the 5 1/8 to make it exactly match with the embossed soft succulent. Okay, and then this is the matte behind the sentiment is Early Espresso, and it was cut only at 1/2 inch by 3 1/8, and then I used the Crumb Cake for the sentiment. And let me show you just real quickly how I did that, if I can locate my sentiment, which seems to have walked off. Okay. Well, what I did was I used a Post-it note and I covered up part of it. Let me show you on here. I wanted this sending healing thoughts without the May Nature's Beauty Bring Peace, and so I covered that up with a big Post-it note tape, and then stamped it there with the Early Espresso. The trick to when you do that is definitely take the tape off before you stamp it, otherwise you're going to have a big mess and you'll be very disappointed. All right, so that is that. And then this particular die comes from a different set And that set is the, bring it over here, it's the Meadow Dies Die Set. So, and that is where it's kind of almost like wheat, and that's where that comes from. So I think we covered everything, and the die for the Nature's Harvest comes from the harvest dies to get the cone flower out of there. So I think that's everything, and like I said, I really want to focus on the coloring. So let me bring in some scratch paper, and I've got a couple that I have not used yet, and I stamped them in the soft suede color. So, and then cut them out, and you can cut them out after you color them. It doesn't really matter. But what I decided really worked, that kind of gave it a base so that the blends would not soak in, was to use the watercolor pencils. All right, I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit closer so that you can see better. And I need to sharpen these, but this was the Daffodil Delight. And so if you just kind of go through and color, and you don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but you do want to get a lot of color, especially on the ends of it, because that's the parts, the tips of the flower petals are going to be the parts that are going to be the lightest in color. So you're just going to do that for each of the petals. And then I'm switching to pumpkin pie, and then I'm going to just add just a little bit of pumpkin pie to it. And we're going to have darker colors with the blends further up. Okay, and then the key not only is to put those on, but the key then is to use your blender pen and to go through and blend it. Now you need to be careful to not get into the edges as far as like the soft suede ink, because it is a water-based ink and this blender will make it run. But by doing that, you've sort of created a barrier, I suppose, and that is what you need to be able to do the blends. All right, so let's pick out, I have the light Daffodil Delight, and we can, I hope that's in focus. Is that in focus? Then we're going to just add a little bit of that to it on the tips. Okay, and then we're going to continue with other colors. Let's try this one is the dark pale papaya, and I'm just making it lighter on the tips and darker as I go up, and so each of these is just a tiny bit darker than the previous one, and I'm just going up, and I would do that for all the petals of all the flowers. All right, and the next color I've got light Cajun Craze, and again we're going to go up. And now we're going to get into where there's probably some shadows. So some of these are overlapping. So this petal is behind that petal. So you probably want to give it a little bit more color. It's going to be a little darker. There's going to be some shadows there. All right, and then we're going to go with the, what do I have here? The dark Cajun Craze. And that will be our darkest. And that's going to be right up next to the center of the flower. And sometimes I just do some, just kind of like light dots. All right, then I'm going to go back again with my yellow and see if I can blend just a little bit. All right, and then as far as the center of the flower, then I used the dark Crumb Cake, and probably it doesn't matter which tip you use, but these are such wonderful markers. They're just awesome. All right, and then I'm going to go to the dark soft suede, and I'm going to do where it is a little bit darker and filled in. I'm going to go back over that. Okay, like that. It's pretty much just on that one side. Okay, kind of went out of the line there. Nobody noticed that. All right, and then I'm going to go back again. We're going to do just a little bit. I'm going to make dark right in here. Just kind of reinforce that. Okay. And that's what you have. I've also, we could go on with the stem. For the stem, I used the light old olive. Use the other end. And I also use the dark old olive. So just to kind of show you what I do. And again, it would be darker in here because the petals are shadowing the stem. So hopefully you can see. I almost think it's not as focused as it needs to be, but let me show you just on that, if you can see the difference between the one that I just created and the one that I had created with just the blends without using the yellow pencil and the orange pencil, watercolor pencils, and the blender pens. So it makes to me a very decided difference. So, and once again, here's the one that is completed. So you've got the one that we just started, the one with only the blends and not the watercolor pencils, kind of giving it a barrier, and here's the finished one. So I really, really like that effect, and I think it's a neat trick that I just sort of stumbled on in trying to make it darker. So I hope you will also take advantage of that and try it if you need one that's on something different than just the very vanilla or the white. And I'm going to zoom back out just a little bit. So that is the tip for the day, and I hope you like the project. I've enjoyed doing it. I am a little behind on my videos. The puppy that we have has kept me hopping, and in fact, as I'm filming the video, she is into all sorts of things. I think I see her moving things around on my camera stand. So I will sign off and be sure we don't have any destruction. So, and I will look forward to seeing you again in the treehouse shortly. And if you have not already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you would subscribe. And I will continue to keep making videos and chasing my puppy around. And thanks again for joining me in the treehouse. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.